Hi and welcome back. Today I have a spread in my handmade junk art journal and I'm going to use these collage papers here. This is one of my bigger boxes because my smaller boxes are getting quite empty, and so I'll try to just fill them up with the leftovers from the bigger box, if that makes sense. In this journal I usually pick just stuff that I have laying around. I do not create a certain planned spread in special colors. I just go for what I have. There are a bunch of spreads already finished in this journal. There are also some of them available as a tutorial on my YouTube channel, so you can just check that out. I will link up the playlist in the end cards. There is also a video available on how I made this journal. I will link this up in the video description so you can find that easily. I'm starting out with the collage papers. I'm just tearing the papers or I'm cutting them, depending if I want to have a straight edge or a torn edge, and then I adhere the papers with a glue stick. You will find a lot of ideas for collage papers also on my channel and also over on my Instagram page. There are a lot of quick videos available where I'm making collage papers. This is a piece of handmade washi tape. There is also a video tutorial on my channel, and I will link this up in the video description so you can check that out. I used a gummed paper tape, and this is a paper tape that has some glue on the back side, and when you go over it with water, the glue will be activated. And it's a white tape from Clairefontaine, and I printed it with my jelly plate and then added some stamped images, and that creates the most gorgeous handmade washi tape. As always, I have a blog post over on my website where you can have a look at the close-up images of this journal page. I will now cover the pages with some clear gesso. And what I love about this clear gesso is that it's a bit gritty, so it has some kind of texture, and you can go on top with any kind of medium, and that will work just fine. And I'm just applying a thin layer with that scraper tool, and I will remove the over amount of gesso with that catalyst blade. So I really have just a super thin layer on top, but I really like the texture you get, and that you can easily work with all kinds of mediums on top. It also dries quite fast when you make such a thin layer. That gesso, by the way, is from PBU, and it dries super clear. There is no film on top of the paper, and you can still see the vibrant colors of the collage elements. Now that my gesso is dry, I come in with some stamping, and I picked that number stamp. It's the bigger version of the one that is already on the washi tape that I've adhered before. And as I'm stamping in that bulky book, I lay a piece of foam underneath to make sure to get a good stamp impression. Stamping in such a bulky book is almost impossible, and just using something underneath the papers makes it much easier. I'm using StazOn ink to stamp because it dries super fast, and also it dries on every surface. And I also always stamp not only one time, I stamp a few times, so I get different intensities of the color, and that gives me a lot more dimension. Next, I'm using also a stamp with smaller numbers. I believe both stamps are on our Mix It Up #1 stamp set. The smaller numbers stamp is on the Mixed Media Marks #1, which was usually a rubber set, and because it was one of the best sold stamp sets, I made it into a clear stamp set. And now I'm using also a nice stamp from our pencil marks. I think it's from the pencil marks #2, and I stamp it in olive green, just to bring in some different marks. And I think stamping is quite an easy way to create interest on a background. And you can also make textures you could not make with a pencil or pen. Now I want to go in and blend that busy background a little bit together by adding a layer or a few layers of color, and I picked out my favorite Inktense colors. These are the Derwent Inktense Pencils, and they are ink pencils, which means they are water soluble. And when you use them on a porous surface, and you really will dissolve them with water, then they will dry permanent compared to a usual watercolor pencil. That is not true for a gessoed surface because it's non-porous. The pigment will not stay in place when you go on top after it's dry. But what I like about the Derwent Inktense pencils is that they are so vibrant, and it is such a difference compared to watercolor pencils. And I use those a lot. I use them for mixed media and also in my sketchbook. I've applied the pencil dry to my background, and then I'm going in with a brush and water, and I'm just blending in the colors, and that gives the whole page kind of one color, not exactly one, but it makes everything blend together a little bit. And I really love how you can change the look of a collage when you create a transparent layer with color on top. If you don't have the Derwent Inktense pencils, you can also use any other water-soluble medium, or you can also use watercolors, as we have a clear gesso on top that will work just nice. And you could also use acrylic inks, so you don't need these pencils. I'm quickly going to dry my page before I come back and add some more layers. I wanted to bring in more darker areas, and I'm using the Payne's Gray because I have it already on my page, and that makes everything fit nicely. And something you can also do is just make some splatters by removing or dissolving some of the pigment from the from the tip of your pencil, and just make some splatters with it. Whilst my background was drying, I have stamped these images from the pencil marks number 1 to a jelly print. It's a yellow-orange color because it matches my page. I picked this one and I stamped these leaves with StazOn, and I'm now going to cut them out and adhere them to the page. I decided before I'm going to adhere the images, I want to stamp them also to the background to bring in more dimension. That gives it just more depth. I now felt that everything is a bit too dark and I wanted to have a little bit more white space and highlights, so I decided to pick the Tailor shape from Autograph. It's a white pigment block which is water soluble, and I use it quite a lot in my sketchbook, but it's also nice to make white splatters or to bring in white space. Of course, you can use white acrylic ink as well. That will work exactly in the same way. I'm blending it in a bit and it will mix with the Derwent Inktense Pencils which are underneath. I let everything dry again, and here I'm back, and I decided to bring in some more marks with a new color in orange. Just because I really enjoy making marks on my pages, and it's also quite nice to have some more stuff going on in the background that you can explore whilst looking at the finished piece. What I love about the new colors, they are super creamy, and they are perfect for either drawing. I use them in my sketchbook a lot, or for making marks in your art journal. They are not messy, and I think they are just perfect, and they go over darker areas quite well. And now I'm making also some marks with a light green, just some little dashes. Sometimes I almost can't stop doing it because I really enjoy that process so much. And something else that looks quite nice is making some very loose scribbly marks just with a light hand over your page. That's something you have to be careful not to overdo it. And finally, you see me adhering the main images I've cut out that I've stamped onto the jelly prints. I will glue them down, and then I will also add a sentiment to the page, and I will pick a little tab to put it on the right side, which will also look quite nice. I have stamped that tab with the Journal Words stamp set. I laid it just onto the stamp and picked the word spirit, and I will adhere this to the right side of my page. I will give it a sentiment, and that's all I'm going to do. I will leave you with some photos, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I wish you a lovely week, and bye.